My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have the legendary coach from Amistad, Ryan Ott. And I know you just rolled your eyes, but man, what you've done with the program for the last couple of years and just how you've built it into what it is now, you deserve a lot of credit.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Chris. Thanks for inviting me to be on the show.
No problem.
Thanks for everything you're doing for high school sports and high school athletes across Connecticut. I think it's really cool, the stuff you're putting together. So I appreciate the invite.
I really do appreciate that, Coach.
Thank you for the kind words. Very hyperbolic, but appreciate it nonetheless.
Now, Coach Ott, before we get into what was a magical and historic 2019 season for Amistad, take me into just from the beginning about the program itself, how it started, and just what it took to get to what was 2019.
Okay. The basketball program started 10 years ago. And for the first 3 years, there's another guy that was the coach. And then after 3 years, I was hired as the head coach. I've been head coach there now 7 or 8 years. Those first 3 years, I think the first 2 years were like partial seasons where they played 10, 12 games, something like that. And then the year before I got there was the first year that they had a full season and played a full 20-game schedule. And then I took over, and the first year was tough. It was tough. We had no juniors and no seniors on the roster, and the varsity team was entirely freshmen and sophomores, and none of them had ever played varsity before. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't think any of them had even been to a varsity practice before. So we were kind of starting over at that point. It was a young, new school, very small school in New Haven. And then for the last 7 or 8 years, it's been a gradual process of each year building the program and strengthening the program, growing and improving. That first year I was there, I kept videos from that year because I wanted some evidence. I think it's fair to say we were the worst team in the state of Connecticut. And that's not because of the kids, that's because of the situation. We had no juniors, no seniors, and we're a small school. I think that the senior class that year had 30 kids in it or something, 15 boys, something like that. I might be off on the numbers slightly. But that first year was rough. But then from there, we kind of gradually made strides year by year. That third year, my third year was those kids, they grew and that was their senior years, my first group of seniors. And we ended up winning 18 games that year. And so that was kind of the first big step forward. That was a significant step forward for us. And those kids, those were great kids, and they improved a ton. And from there, we started going to state tournaments, and each year we've kind of built and gotten stronger from there.
What would you say, because I know when there's success in a program, a coach will look back and say, okay, it was this class that kind of jump-started, or maybe it was maybe it was my first class. To you, do you have a specific class that you could say kind of helped? I don't want to say break the mold, but kind of open the door to what is now a very successful program at Amistad?
I don't think there's one particular group or one particular kid. I think certainly, like I said, that third season and that first group of seniors was laid the foundation and kind of opened the doors and opened eyes for other kids in our elementary school and in our middle school to come to our high school and saw that we could be successful in basketball and that we were growing and improving and building, and we were competitive, and we were playing tougher schedules and tougher teams from around the state. So, but again, I don't think that there was really a turning point or a particular group or particular player, because if I thought about it that way, I'd miss out on. We've had so many good kids and so many good groups of kids, and the process really. There was never a time where a 6'5" or 6'6", eighth grader came through the door and all of a sudden was there for us. So there was never like a moment where it's like, Luell Cinder just walked through the door and now we're ready to roll. We kind of built it year by year and step by step. And we've had a lot of great kids along the way.
Now, being around, obviously, as a head coach, you kind of have a first opportunity, first glance to be able to see how the program is, but also kind of what's behind as far as coming through the ranks and almost the pipeline that is Amistad. Did you have any inclination that, things were starting to improve? At what point did you see that as far as the program was concerned?
Um, Well, I think I might be a little bit repetitive, but I think that maybe as it was happening, we noticed and felt good about, okay, like this year we are a significant step better than last year. And
Mhm.
then there were certainly some milestones, winning 18 games and going to the state tournament and having several all-state players along the way. And then our schedule, we're an independent school, we're not in a conference, so I can schedule teams from all around the state. And our schedule got tougher and tougher, and we started to compete with, and then eventually beat some of the biggest and strongest programs across the state. And so there were steps along the way where we kind of noticed as it was happening, and looking back, like that was another step forward, and that was another milestone maybe for us in growing the program that we want to become, and that's to be like a state power and a state title contender year in and year out. And so there's individual kids that won a lot of accolades with all state honors, and there's teams that had some huge wins against some huge powerhouse programs, historic programs in the state, in each of the major cities and each of the major conferences. And then going deeper and deeper into the state playoffs each year. But I think so we saw that, and we knew that, and we knew we were on the right path. I think there's probably a lot of people, we're a small school in New Haven, and we're new. So I think that maybe last year when we went to the Mohegan Sun and played in the state finals, I think maybe that drew a lot of people's attention. But we kind of felt like we were on that path long before that anyways. But when you're a small school and a new school, like maybe people aren't aware of that until it actually happens. But so I think that's kind of how it all unfolded.
I really want to get into the 2019 season because I think that's, by far, I mean, that was a magical run. A lot of people, if they didn't know what Amistad was or where or who, they knew after that. If it wasn't after the second game, then it was after the third game, the fourth game, and then obviously getting to the championship. But before we get into that run, was there anything that you did differently in the preseason or kind of going into that? Because I know a lot of times with talking with coaches, maybe they try something different, or maybe they just kind of just build off of what they did in the previous year, and it just so happened where everything just clicked.
Well, certainly, so we're a program where we have our offensive and defensive systems in place, and our player development programs in place, and those are things we're building on each year, and we're certainly making adjustments and tweaks and additions and those types of things to our systems, offensively, defensively, etc., from year to year. I think that that year it was fun. It was it was a lot of fun, and a lot of pieces came together. I think we were very balanced, and maybe in previous years we were quite close, and maybe just a player away or a play away in some instances. But last year, kind of all the pieces came together, and we did make some adjustments. We played, we made some adjustments mid-season, and but nothing major. I think the stuff that we had in mind going into the season is what we rolled with for most of the season. The year before that, 2 years ago, we were so close. To us, it feels like 2 years in a row where we were just on the cusp. And it might not look like that from the outside. We lost in the middle of the tournament 2 years ago to Rocky Hill, and that was a game that went down to the final 2 minutes, and it was like a 1 or 2 possession game with I think a minute and a half left, and Rocky Hill was really good that year, really well coached, and for them, like their season really came together in March, and they ended up going all the way to the Mohegan Sun. They went on a run to the Sun, and they played Colby in the finals. And I remember during pregame warmups before that tournament game, Rocky Hill and Amistad, Coach Dinnerman and I were talking, and he said to me, he had scouted teams all over the brackets, and obviously we had as well. And he said to me, he said, "Coach, I think whoever wins this game is going to play Colby in the finals." And I said, I completely agree with that. I think that the three top teams, I mean, certainly other teams were strong and had very good chances as well. But my view and his view independently, from all of our scouting and prep work, was that the three strongest teams in the tournament were Amistad, Rocky Hill, and Colby. And sure enough, his prediction was right. They beat us in the final minute and went on and had a great tournament, and then played Colby in the finals. And we felt like when that was over and we watched them go on the run, it kind of, in our minds, was more validation of like, man, we're right there on the cusp. And then that kind of led into last year, and we had our own run.
I'm glad you mentioned kind of like the validation and kind of giving the team confidence for the following season, because as you know, with like professional sports teams, the young teams that are either young and experienced, I mean, you can name the excuse, however far they make it. I mean, prime example, you look at the 49ers in football. They're very young. They made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Now, I mean, they can't go any higher than that, but that just kind of shows like they got the experience. Maybe that helps them if they play this following season. The reason why I bring that up is because for your team, even though they didn't win it in 2018, they got the experience of both playing against a competitive team. They were in what sounded like a dogfight, and it kind of prepared that nucleus of players for the following season, which was 2019.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's exactly how it unfolded, and then hopefully we build on that and it continues into the future. That's certainly what we have in mind, and that certainly is what we felt like was in the process of happening this year. Before everything got canceled, we felt very confident going into this year's state tournament. We played an incredibly difficult schedule in the regular season, and that was by design, just like the previous years, to prepare us for playing against schools that are much larger than us, and that are tough competition, and tough brackets. So we saw when the brackets came out this year, it was loaded, but we felt confident and we were excited about it. And our kids, they were excited and confident until everything got canceled, and that's another story, I guess.
Well, that's one that we could talk about for a long time, but that's negative stuff. Let's stay with the positive. Again, 2019, looking at the tournament in and of itself and who you had to play, you only had one home game, and that was your first game against SMSA. You were on the road against Berlin, you were on the road at Wilbur Cross, and then you had to travel all the way up to Waterbury to play Torrington, which was at Wilby High School. So being a I don't want to say that being on the road is, always a good thing, but I think maybe for some teams it could be because getting away from the home court and that pressure could benefit. Do you think that helped your team, or it didn't really matter?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think it helped. I don't. I definitely don't think it helped, but I don't think it hurt either.
Okay.
Um, I think that we had played all around the state. We'd been in some unfriendly, hostile environments around the state in a good way, and I mean that in a good way, in the way high school basketball is supposed to be. I'm from Kentucky, and I played high school basketball in Kentucky, and so I grew up in those kinds of environments and playing some really tough road games. And I think we've been doing that for years. Playing in Hartford, playing in Waterbury, playing in New London, playing in Bridgeport and in New Haven, and in every conference around the state. So I think we were prepared for that. If we had our choice, we would have preferred to play some more home games. We had a high seed, and we took care of business. But I think our third round game was technically, we were the home team, but because it was the quarterfinals, SIAC moved the game to a bigger gym to accommodate the expectation for fans, because we were playing Shelton, and Shelton's just down the road, and so then the place was packed, and so we ended up playing one first round home game. We should have had a third round home game, but it didn't bother us. It certainly didn't bother us. I'll tell you, the game in Torrington, or not in Torrington, against Torrington in Waterbury, that felt like, that did not feel like a neutral site game. It felt, we had a huge crowd show up from New Haven, but it was like, that's a long bus ride, and that place was packed, and there's a really good crowd for Torrington and for Amistad. But certainly that was an electric atmosphere that night.
Torrington travels. I've seen them for years, both for football and basketball, being able to broadcast for the NBL. And the one thing that I've noticed is that the towns of Torrington, Naugatuck, Woolkit, a lot of those valley schools, they travel. If their team is winning and they're getting to, either, a championship, either for their conference or for the state, they will come and support their team. And I wasn't surprised when I saw that practically the entire town of Torrington was there. And again, that game, and I'm glad that you mentioned it because let's get right to it because the other games, they were good. I mean, the quarterfinal game against Shelton was close, 68-59, but the other games, you guys were the better team. The semifinal game against Torrington, man, that game was a dogfight right from tip.
Yeah, I think we played well in round one. Round two, played a good team in Berlin, but I think just the matchups favored us. So we ended up having a pretty comfortable win, but it wasn't a blowout by any means. It was just that the matchups kind of favored us. But they were tough. And then the third round, Shelton was, we were losing by 6 or 7 at halftime or something like that. And we played terrible the first half. And, we went in at halftime and I said to the team, I said, the good news is we're only down 7. We felt like we should have been losing by 20 because we were playing so poorly. And then we went back to the whiteboard and nothing had been changed from it. And he said, here's the 3 keys to the game. And we haven't done 1, 2, or 3. So the good news is we're only down 7. If we can go out and follow the game plan and execute the game plan, then we should be okay. And but I think that experience of being down in the first half of that game and then coming back to win really helped us in the next game, because the way I recall it is in the semifinals against Torrington, they had a pretty good start to the game, and we were down in the first quarter perhaps by as much as 8, 10, something like that. But, we kept our composure and we grinded and battled back in the second quarter. And I think we had a halftime lead of 6 points, 5 or 6 points, something like that. And then we held on to that in the second half, although it was back and forth. Torrington was tough. They were good. That team was so well coached and very balanced. I think I scouted them. I can't remember if it was 5 or 6 times. I scouted them 5 or 6 times, and every time my notes were full of how well coached they are and how well they executed and how balanced they were. You couldn't pick out and say, like, okay, on the offensive end, this is the major weakness, or on the defensive end, this is who to attack, because they had so much balance, and that made them tough. And we were fortunate that we played a good game that night, and we executed our game plan really well that night. And we were fortunate we pulled out the victory.
Watching that game, because the one thing I like to be able to, stepping away from the broadcasting side and just watching a game, it's really interesting to see kind of how, when you have 2 really good coaches in both yourself and Coach Gamari, kind of how you're going against. It's almost like a game of chess, like who's going to blink first, who's going to try to, match something. And it really seemed like both you and him, and credit to the players because they're the one playing at the end of the day, no disrespect, but they were listening to you, to the coaches, and they kind of, even though Torrington lost, they still played up to their level. It's just that at the end of the game, my broadcast partner always says, whoever makes the most free throws at the end of a game in a close game will win. And that's what happened with Amistad. You guys made your free throws. Torrington put you on the line, said, make your free throws. If you don't make them, it's a different game, and maybe Torrington comes out with the victory instead of you guys. But you made your free throws when you had to, and you guys got the win.
Yeah, I think that was certainly a key. Like we had the lead in the second half, but they were kind of right on our heels the whole time. We pulled away at one point to a double-digit lead, and I don't remember exactly what transpired, but I know that quickly they brought it back down to single digits, and they were within striking distance, and we were on the line a lot because they started to press, and it went from a half court game to a full court game, and with the full court press, there ended up being more fouls and more, and with us having the lead, then they had to foul us intentionally at the end, and I was really proud of our kids. Our kids showed great composure in executing our stuff. And then when we got fouled, making our free throws. So that was certainly one of the keys, I think, to the game for sure.
And you said something after the game to somebody from, I think it was Game Time, or somebody who's a part of the media. And you said that, and I found this and listening to it again, because I didn't hear this the first time, and shame on me. You said these 11 varsity players are taking 31 AP classes. I listened to it again because I was like, wait, hold on. 31 AP. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about some smart young men.
Yeah, I'm lucky. We have really smart kids. We have really hardworking kids. They have the most. I shouldn't say the most. They have one of the most rigorous academic schedules in the state. I would say a normal course load for our kids is junior year 3 or 4 AP classes, and senior year 3 or 4 or 5 AP classes. So that's automatic for everyone. You know, there's some adjustments and they tailor it for different kids, but it's a completely normal thing for our kids to be taking that many AP courses. And that's all part of what Amistad does academically. So 100% of our senior basketball players in the last 7 to 8 years that I've been keeping track have gotten academic scholarships to college, over $1 million worth of academic scholarships. And so, which makes makes coaching fun, because they're very bright kids, very smart kids, and then they have a very high level work ethic. So that work ethic that they put in academically, obviously that translates in terms of basketball as well. Like, so our player development, the kids that we get when they're freshmen and the amount they improve through to their senior years is a testament to their hard work and their work ethic and their dedication, both academically and athletically.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, we all want to be able to see players that we coached do well at the next level, even play at the NBA level, the MLB, the NFL, but less than 1% even do that. I think a majority of coaches, if not all coaches, would say they would love to just see the people that they coach, the young men and women, to just succeed in life, you know, have families, get a good job, just stay out of trouble. And I think both you, your staff, and what the program and the school itself kind of basically, I don't want to say preach, but just show that there's other ways to be able to succeed in life. And as you mentioned, in 2019, you had 11 players with 31 AP classes, a lot of smart young men. You know, the ones that graduated, hopefully they're doing well. The ones that will be in the coming years, you know, a lot of success beyond the basketball court. And I think Amistad should be recognized for that and deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, my assistant coaches we're lucky because we get kids that are very serious about their academics and that are very passionate about basketball. We appreciate that, and my assistant coaches are fantastic at teaching the game, but also at helping me, the group of us, lead these guys from freshman through to senior year, and then on to college scholarships. And a lot of success beyond high school as well. So it's definitely not the Amistad basketball program, and the Amistad academic system is not a 4-year plan. You know, it's a 40-year plan, setting kids up for the next 40 years of their lives. They put in a lot of work, and they have the AP classes are no joke, right? You can't fake those. So they put in a lot of work, but it's setting themselves up for 40 years of success ahead. So it's something that's fun to be a part of.
Coach, we've just about run out of time, but I really do appreciate being able to come on and talk about Amistad basketball. And if a lot of people don't know about who the school is, even after what was a great run in 2019, hopefully this interview will be able to show you that this is a fantastic school. I mean, Coach, out again, I know you laughed when I said the legendary coach, but what you've been able to do with these young men, the program, and just being able to get Amistad out there. You know, one last quote that you said in the interview after you mentioned how you had 31 AP classes given out to, the 11 varsity players. You said you wanted to be the #1 academic and #1 basketball school. You're already there with the academic and the basketball. I truly believe Amistad will win a championship in the next couple of years. I really do.
Well, thank you for the kind words again. Thank you for the invite and the opportunity to talk. It's fun to talk hoops when we can't get out there and play and coach. And certainly, I hope your prediction is right. We feel like we've been on the cusp. We've been really close the last 2 years. We felt like this year was going to be another great opportunity. And we're looking forward to the next few years. We got some great young kids coming back, some returning veterans, and we have some new kids coming up, and we're looking forward to the seasons ahead. So I hope your prediction is accurate. And thank you again for the invite.
No problem. And hopefully I'm broadcasting that game either for, against an NVL school or just in general, because I would love to be able to call an Amistad game. I really would.
Amen. Amen. It'd be great to see you and to get you on a broadcast for one of our games.
Now wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.